Welcome back to the Gamecocks Football Captain's Log. I'm here, as always, with the captain himself from Morris Island Charters, Captain Petey. My name is Brandon. Captain Petey, how are you doing?
Depressed.
Yes. So, I guess let's talk about last week's game. Stop me if you've heard this before. We won, but offensive line and secondary issues throughout. Very underwhelming performance against Old Dominion. I feel like we're going to sound like a broken record almost. I mean, we talked about the coaching problems last week. What really stood out to you when you watched whatever that was?
A major, I guess, starting with offense, we'll go there. Again, all the hype around Sellers and everything in the off season coming into this year. I was severely hesitant to, last episode to anoint him as our new savior, and rightfully so. I still think he has a lot of potential, but we have not developed him into a quarterback that we need him to be. He can run the ball great, but we're not able to pass the ball. He's making bad reads. He doesn't have situational awareness. There's no continuity between him and the receivers. To be fair, he did have some, receivers drop the ball, but also he's not reading the defense well. Also running out of bounds on a third down and you stop a yard before the first down. That's not great. Also running down your own running back and and tripping him is also
tackling.
A great thing. So it's I'm hoping he will get more collected and be more confident and be able to make those reads and passes down the field. But from what I saw, he wasn't very accurate. We also did not use him very well as far as like throwing the ball. We didn't want to throw the ball at all. Apparently, it didn't seem like we were even going to try. He didn't have any. Maybe 2 or 3 targets on Harbor. I think Josh Simon caught the ball twice, and they were both in the flats. We're not using guys well or putting the ball in places to try and throw off the defense. It's all throw into the flats or RPOs. There's no design play that are getting the ball down the field. We had a couple balls thrown way down the field, but it was not. It did not look like he was kind of, planned or working any kind of semblance of a functional offense.
Yeah, Sellers was 10 for 23 for 114 yards. And in fairness to him, we did ask for better open field tackling this season. So we didn't expect it to be from our quarterback against our own running back, but we did get better open field tackling. How much of all of his issues that you brought up, and again, you did mention too, you can see the gifts as well. Like, you can definitely see those.
He's
but how much
potential? It's not like it's this is a DJ Uyunglele situation.
Yes. Yeah, that guy. So how much of his issues do you think are, let's see how many different buckets we can separate them into, are, first start, jitters, offensive line issues, receivers not being super talented, coaching? Like, do you think it's spread out pretty evenly amongst all those different things?
So I will say this about the offensive line. It is better than it was last year. Still not good, but in an improvement, I'll say. And that could get better as the year goes on like we saw last year. But It is. I think it's mostly a confusion or inexperience on on Sellers' side, which will come with time. This was the game where you should be able to get that stuff figured out.
Yeah.
But it didn't happen. I would have if that was something that was going on in the first half, and then the second half you saw improvement on. It didn't click. There was no point in there where it clicked, and you made that leap. Also, it's just coaching. I'm so frustrated with coaching staff. It's just, why can we not get anybody on the same page? It's like they're all using different playbooks, and we can't communicate well between coaches and players, and wide receivers to quarterbacks, and wide receivers to linemen and all that, and tight ends. We're all looking at. They're not even like. It's like they're not even on the same page of the same playbook, and I'm so frustrated with that, 'cause that's just plagued us ever since Beamer came along.
So that's what I was going to ask you next. How much of it reminds you of different offensive coordinator, obviously, but before we got to the Tennessee game, Rattler's first year, when it looked like everyone was on a different page, then does it remind you of that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That's terrible. I hate that.
So
I hate it for you. I hate it for me.
If we're lucky, we'll go through another 8 games and then finally figure it out against whoever we're playing in week 8. But this is just the same thing, different week, different year. There's no development here as far as like keeping people in order and playing well together.
I'm kind of concerned. Is the plan to run Lenoris 22 times a game? Is that what we're going to do?
We're going to destroy his knees, and also Rocket Sanders. Rocket Sanders, I will say this: I do like how he plays. He runs hard. He is not going to give up on a play.
Yeah.
I do wish he had a little more size. He could run through some people better, but we need a little bit more variety as far as depth in our running back room. We don't have anybody that can really run over anybody. But I don't know what else we can say about that offensive performance other than we just gave up on the passing, looks like.
I was not super impressed with Jared Brown. I know he came in as the number 1 guy from Coastal. Yeah. He had that big drop that wouldn't have mattered, I guess, because of the penalty. But, like, do you want him to hand you the ball? Like, what more can you ask for? And just,
yeah,
I wasn't really seeing a ton of separation from any of our receivers either.
No. They weren't getting a ton of separation. On the times that they did, Sellers would throw it into the dirt or throw it high or throw it behind the receiver. So I don't know if that's first game jitters or him just feeling rushed, like he doesn't know how to, he's not feeling fluid in the offense. Maybe it'll slow down for him and he'll get it better under control against Kentucky, but I doubt. We'll get into that later.
And something that we brought up last week too that was glaring to me and kind of ties into all this as well is we're playing Old Dominion. And you would think at the very least, even if we don't know what we're doing, we can at least overpower them with SEC athletes. But it looked kind of like we were all in the same conference physically. Yeah. And that does not bode well when you look at the rest of our schedule, I feel.
It seems extremely daunting. And a lot of crying and screaming.
I believe so.
In our future. Although a lot of screaming was in our
past. That's all we know.
Yeah.
That's all we know. So let's move to the defensive side of the ball. I guess the bright spot, the pass rush, Kyle Kennard, Dylan Stewart, they were incredible.
Yeah.
I think Stewart had the game sealing strip sack.
Yes. Yeah. I can't remember who picked it up though. But
Yeah, someone who owes Kyle Kennard and Dylan Stewart whatever NIL money they're receiving. So that was a bright spot for sure, especially Stewart being a freshman. He looked incredible.
yeah,
But then, well, what do you think about the defensive line play in general, both pass rushing and stopping the run?
so we have some really good defensive ends. So we were causing havoc in the backfield on longer developing pass plays. Couldn't really do much to stop the short pass, especially in the second half, because they were getting the ball out in time. But also, it's not like they had a hard time running against us. We were not able to dominate up front on the defensive line and stop the run. We weren't holding our blocks and closing these holes on the front. We weren't really doing much in the middle to stop them.
Well, that certainly won't be a problem.
No, especially you look at who we play next week, who loves to run the ball at the middle.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine. The worst part of the defense for me, and it has been for quite some time now, the secondary,
Yep.
particularly, like they had 2 interceptions. So if you didn't watch the game and you just looked, oh, they had 2 picks, this is great, you'd be like, okay, this is an improved secondary. It is not. I don't like calling out individual players, but at this point, how do we not have anybody better than DQ Smith at safety?
It's a very good question. And I don't have an answer to that. And it is going to be a long season with him back there. The 70-yard touchdown was completely on him. You could see him. He looked confused before the snap. He didn't have a read on where he should be lined up. Guy runs right past him, and then he plays catch up the rest of the play, and then has a chance to make a tackle around like the 15 or 10-yard line and just completely whiffs on an open field tackle, which that's embarrassing for him. If you're playing in the SEC and you just get completely tied up with
just got his ankles broken and just.
So I mean, but the secondary did not look awesome at all. They looked slightly better than they did this time last year, but was still not great coverage. And
it was shaky.
An Old Dominion team.
Exactly, and that's what it's like. Man, you look ahead, you're like, if this is how we look against ODU, then what is going to happen? And I think that's why I feel confident now calling out DQ, because last year I was willing to chalk some of his confusion, and there was a lot of it, up to coaching, scheme, whatever. But now it appears very clear to me that the secondary very well could be confused as a unit, but of that unit, he is far and away the most confused.
Yeah. It's like he should be playing a different position.
Yeah, well, if for no other reason than he plays safety, and I feel anything but safe when he's back there. He should play hazard. And I'm just tired of seeing him do this. He's just always spun around. I just have never seen anything like it. Are there anything else defensively that stood out to you?
They're Debo is good, but I think Bam Martin Scott had maybe a couple sacks or a couple tackles in there too. We still don't have that size that we're going to need for an SEC team in that in that front seven. I don't love the 4-2-5 /3-3 that we keep switching around with. That's probably where all the confusion is coming. We keep switching formations. But also, there, we're in the 4-2-5. We're also not playing a true 4-down lineman. We've got the two edge rushers. They're in a 2-point stance. It's not the same as a real. We don't have a true 4-man front that we can put out there. So this is going to be. This is just lining us up to get drilled down the middle.
Well, that's great news.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the coaching once again. It's gotten very old. Like, the press conference script from Beamer. Like, well, we're going to celebrate a win around here, but, it starts with us. We got to be better. All 3 phases of the game. It's the same thing every week. Who's in charge of making these adjustments?
One thing he said, too, which really got under my skin, was that, if you're going to play wide receiver around here, you're going to have to be able to block. Well, you also have to be able to catch the ball, too, for one. But why are we running outside on every play? Why are we doing that? We should be. Why do we have to always be running outside the block? Outside the offensive line on run plays. Why are we always doing this? We have people that can run up the middle. We should be able to run up the middle on this team especially. But I'm so sick of the outside play calling and RPOs and just letting Sellers do what he does and make plays. But it's not a. I'm selling on Loggins. I'm done with him.
Yeah, he hasn't shown any improvement whatsoever. And that's kind of the story of the Beamer program, is that if adjustments do come, it's not like half to half like great coaching staffs or game to game like good coaching staffs. It's, okay, we might figure something out by the end of the year. And there we go. And that's just unacceptable.
And then we won't improve upon it.
No, and we don't carry it over from season to season. It's like, okay, we figured out, we made this adjustment, this works. And then next year, we'll just take it back to square one and we'll see what happens from there.
Yeah.
I don't see how much time could he possibly have left?
I was done with him last year.
Yeah.
But here we are again. And supposedly, everyone at the school loves him, and they're going to give him a long leash. But what more do we need to see?
Like, I'm sure he's a great guy, but
right,
at
but
what
great
point?
Guys don't win national championships.
We're trying to win football games here.
Nobody says that about Saban. Oh, he's a great guy. They say, oh, he's a great football coach.
Yes. And I'm sure there's a job they can give him where being a great guy works, but head football coach probably isn't what he needs to be doing, especially for the millionth time when your great selling point is how good you are at, like, you're going to bring in the best coordinators and you keep whiffing on coordinators. Might be time to leave. Yeah.
I mean, there's definitely a lacking as far as like X's and O's go. There's no. I've not seen anything as far as play calling wise that makes me think that they are drawing something up that is new or inventive or even creative that is going to confuse or dismantle the opposite team in any way or fashion. It's just I've not seen anything to suggest that.
Yeah, I'm kind of numb. I'm getting to a numb point with the fandom, and I think I'm not alone in that, and that is probably the worst thing when people, they're not happy, they don't care enough to be mad, and then they're just numb.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just banging you're watching the same thing over and over again and then not getting anything different as far as results. Why do we keep doing this?
Definition of insanity. I mean, we've had the same conversation on this show probably every week.
Yeah, for sure.
So, I don't know.
We'll continue to have it for another 9 weeks or
Yeah,
11 weeks.
let's continue. So Saturday, we play Kentucky.
Yep.
Kentucky is already favored by 10. They got a lot of new faces, especially on offense. They won against Southern Miss 31-0 in a lightning shortened game. How are you feeling about taking on Kentucky, who we've done pretty well against recently? So,
Yeah. From my limited research, Kentucky's defense is very good. They have 7 returning starters up front.
yeah, a lot of familiar guys on that end. Yeah.
I would not expect us to be able to run the ball well against them, which is the one thing we were able to do this week is run the ball. So we're going to have to figure out the passing game. And I will not expect Sellers to have any kind of time to sit back there and make reads. So it's going to have to be quick. That ball's got to be out in 2 or 3 seconds. So I would like to see us try and implement a short passing game that does not take a long time to develop. And that way we can nullify the pass rush, also maybe open things up for runs or maybe some plays down the field. I don't anticipate that happening because I don't trust Stal Loggins to actually do anything.
You would be correct there. That game, by the way, 3:30 on ABC, so the nation will get to see how we look. As far as Sellers in the short passing game, do you trust his decision-making to make quick decisions? And is there anything, if we had a real coaching staff, they could do to aid in that process? Since he's not going to have a lot of time.
If he was, I do trust him if he doesn't have to think a lot, especially right now. So if he can go through the motion, a 2-3 step drop, and then get the ball out to one guy, his one receiver. If he doesn't have to, that guy's covered up and he has to go somewhere else, then that's going to be problems. So can we allow him to focus in that one spot and then not have to worry about being, trying to go through all of these.
Yeah. And can the receivers get open in that amount of time too?
Can they get open, which will be another hard thing to do. I would like to see more like hitches and slants, short passing plays that I did not see happen. I saw RPOs and for some reason draw plays. That's why we're running draw plays when you are not passing the ball well. You're not a threat. So, yeah.
Doesn't make a ton of sense.
Geniuses over there on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, Stoops likes to run the ball, and he's going to probably just pound it down our throats and until our defense is absolutely gassed, and then they'll just keep running it down our throats, and we'll be able to stop them.
It's going to be pretty bad.
Yeah.
Because, that takes away, we just talked about our greatest strength is the pass rush. No need for a pass rush if you're running it.
Yeah.
I don't think, like you were saying, the front seven just doesn't appear to be built to stop the run.
No.
Honestly, we'll include the secondary because they're going to have to help because guys are going to get that far into our defense, and I don't think they're built to stop the run either. So
I will say one little thing about our defense. It has improved on tackling this year. They have missed tackles, this week, but it's not as bad as it was last year. Which, every time I see that, it just makes me want to rip my hair out. But
that's what happened to me.
Yeah.
No, outside of DQ, it does feel like we were taking better angles and using common sense to actually get the ball carrier. So that was nice to see. Credit to see we're not completely
not great, but it's improved.
Yeah, improved. We've got a couple of things we've improved on. This hasn't been entirely 100% gloomy. but that was about as bad of an opening win you could have, I feel like.
And I don't feel we shouldn't have won that game.
No.
Yeah.
No.
We weren't able to, sustain drives at all, and yeah, every time we did something good, we immediately fucked it up.
Yeah. It was awesome. It was great to watch. I'm glad that I stuck around for it, and that we had our own lightning delay so that it dragged it out and ruined an entire afternoon.
Right.
I also appreciate it.
Yeah.
So it's time for your prediction. Entertainment purposes. Kentucky's favored by 10. That has actually gone up, I think, since the opening line was released. I don't know.
I think it started at 9 and it's gone up to 10.5.
Yeah. So what are you thinking? What are you and the Dolphins thinking? I know you talked to him. You have plenty of Dolphin tours at Morris Island Charters. He takes you out to see the Dolphins. He consults the Dolphins about what's going to happen each week.
Yep.
What'd they tell you this week?
Well, the Dolphins told me this week that they're putting all of their entertainment purposes on the Kentucky Wildcats. Taking the point, it might be close in the beginning, but by the time the third quarter comes around, we might be gassed, and it's just gonna be real ugly.
Yeah, I was afraid the Dolphins would say that.
Yeah,
I know something very important in boating also is the tide forecast. I haven't thought of an exact equivalent for it in this one, but the closest I can get, 3:30 kickoff. What time do you need to start drinking, if you do drink, to no longer care about what happens in the game?
I would at least start around noon.
Noon. Okay.
And get started quickly.
Yeah. That's liquor drinking. If you're drinking beer, you might want to just midnight, just keep it rolling.
Yeah. Make some of the mind mixers, strong.
Yeah. PD will fuck you up. So, is there anything else we need to cover?
Yeah, I think we've started it all. It's just going to be a rough game to watch unless by miracle we get new coaches in the next 48 hours.
My fingers are crossed. So, this has been tough. Everyone stay strong. Might help you if you go to Morris Island Charters. The information's in the show notes. Get yourself a nice sunset tour, cheer you up a little bit.
Yeah, instead of watching the game, let's go play with the Dolphins, and they'll be a lot more entertaining.
Yeah.
You'll be happier at the end of the day.
So much happier.
Yeah.
So, this has been another episode of the Gamecocks Football Captain's Log. We're going to try again to see you next week, as hard as it is. Thank you for joining us, and good luck.
Bye-bye.